Lord, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for what you're getting ready to do. Let our hearts be receptive, Lord God. Let us be able to learn and know what information, God. We thank you for the meeting of the mind, and we do bless you now, God. Holy Spirit, rest upon this agenda, and we give you glory and praise in Jesus' name. Amen, amen. We welcome y'all. We welcome our senator, and want her to come and I guess tell us what we need to do. Y'all give our senator a hand.
Praise be to God. He is a good God. In spite of, God is good all the time. And let me tell you, when everything first occurred, Pastor, you know, I'm one of those individuals that like to, I'm result-oriented. So when I set my mind to address something, I like to see it done and completed. And so as everything was unfolding, I began to realize that I was not going to be able to put a mark on how this was going to be completed. And I soon realized that what I had in mind in terms of how people were going to recover was not what God was doing. And so one day, just in my private prayer time, because I'm telling you, after driving through my district and seeing that 90% of it had some water damage or had houses that were immersed in water, my heart was extremely heavy. And I said, Regina, you cannot define how this is going to end. You cannot say, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, and then that's going to be it. That's not how it's going to work. And so he gave me this, and I'm going to share it with you before I begin to bring everybody up. In my prayer time, and I had been listening to, I can't even think of his name, William McDowell, because one of the things that he said, if we know that the world, we know that at the end time, we're living in the end time is coming, but it doesn't mean that we just sit back and do nothing. He said we can decree a thing, and it shall be. And so then God gave me the scripture about recovery and all. And that's what I began to prophesy and to speak over the district and to the people who have been affected, that they shall recover all. And even in spite of what the enemy has meant for evil, God is going to turn this around. I can't tell you how. I wish I could. But I believe. Do you believe? I believe that he's going to turn it around. And he's going to make good on everything that you lost. And there's some things that there's no price tag for. But even in those situations, he's going to make good. So he gave me 4 R's. And I'm going to share with you since I'm in the church. I think I can do that. That's okay, Pastor. I can share what he gave me as it relates to what he gave me when everything first happened. I myself had to be rescued. I'm very grateful that we did not get water inside the home, but it did come up. And I remember I was rescuing other folks, and my husband called me and said, if you're leaving, you need to come right now because the water's coming up. So I want you to know he didn't leave. He stayed there, was very nervous for a couple of days, and didn't even tell us how nervous he had gotten because he watched the water come up the driveway and almost in the home. But this is what God gave me, the 4 R's. Rescue, recover, reveal, restore. And what he told me was this. He said people will be in different stages. Everybody will be at the same stage at the same time. But everybody will go through this process. And so most of us certainly have been rescued and we're beyond that stage. But some of us are still recovering. Stuff out of our homes. Stuff we're still trying to gather and get together. And some of us have already begun to rebuild. But I'm going to say to you, God is going to restore everything. If you believe that, clap your hands. Now I want you to say, I said, God. I didn't say FEMA. I didn't say the government. Because I'm in government. God bless us. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. I thank God for government. But I want y'all to know we can't fix all the world's problems. We wish we could, but we can't. But God can. And he uses people. get it done. I do have a crew here, and I'm not quite sure who's all here yet because we were expected to come start at 1. So we might just have to kind of pitch it for a minute here until I make sure everybody's here. But I want y'all to know that I have some people who have been to every meeting that I have called, that I've asked for individuals to come and share information, whether it was on weekday evening, on a Saturday, on a Sunday morning, or a Sunday night. Just how dedicated they've been to this entire situation to ensure that try to bring the answers, and if they don't have the answers to the questions, they go back and get the answers and get them back to me or to you directly. So can we give them a hand of applause? So I have Casey Tingle. Casey Tingle has been with me at every meeting I've had since I started inviting him to the meeting. He's with the governor's office with GoSep. And so when I call your name, if you'll come up, we're going to have you sit at the front, and you'll speak first, and then we'll take the questions. So we have Casey come up from the governor's office. We have several representatives here from FEMA, so I'm not sure which one of you guys are going to be speaking. Whoever's the spokesperson to talk about FEMA can come on up. Is SBA over there? Where's SBA? Okay. Insurance? Insurance in the building yet? City parish? Are you with the city? Okay. Am I missing anybody? If I'm missing you, please come up. I don't have my glasses, so I can't see. Okay. So what we will do is we will actually have them to speak, tell a little bit about their department, and then after everyone speaks, we'll ask everybody if they'll please go to questions. After they speak, then we will begin to take questions and answers. Okay? All right. So if you would have a seat, and I'm going to settle it in, everybody can just sit up here, and we'll get started with Casey.
Test 1, 2.
Great. Good afternoon. Had to check my watch. And I caught just the tail end of the worship service. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and welcoming us as you so warmly this morning, this afternoon. And it's my blessing to be here and thankful for this opportunity to assist you in any way that we possibly can, either directly today or in follow-up with a specific question or specific issue. I work for the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, and we don't directly do a whole lot other than manage shelter at home. But what we do a lot of is coordination with FEMA and our other state and local parish partners to make sure that every available opportunity and program that we have is being implemented to the maximum flexibility that we can and helping as many people as we can. Senator Barrow was absolutely correct. There are some things that government can do and there's some things that government can't do. And I'm thankful for our churches, for our volunteer organizations that have gone above and beyond, whether coming in from out of state or just crossing the street and helping a neighbor as a part of the recovery process. Oh, I need to stand. Let me stand up. Y'all heard everything so far. I don't have to start over, right? Okay, very good. Very good. So all of that has been such a blessing to so many people that may not have gotten to the point that they are today had it not been for a neighbor, had it not been for a church, had it not been from a volunteer organization to come in from out of state and fill in all of those gaps that we all run into through the recovery process. The other thing that I want to say is that it's a miracle that we didn't have more loss of life. When you look at what was happening with the flooding, when the flooding occurred, the way that it occurred, how fast it came, we all should just be thankful that we did not have more loss of life than we did. So now let's fast forward a few weeks, and we're in the middle of trying to figure out what recovery looks like. And so this afternoon, I'm not going to say a whole lot other than to be able to help you hopefully answer some questions. But I want to just remind you of a few things. First is, as it relates to the government programs that we're talking about, there's no one-button solution that works for everybody and does everything that we need it to do. We wish that we had that option, but we don't. So what ends up happening is it's like putting together the puzzle, and you've got some pieces, and you're trying to figure out what pieces are left to be filled in. And those pieces, unfortunately, may be slightly different from the person that lives next door to you, or down the street, or across town, because we're all kind of in individual situations. And so that makes this difficult. But you've got to be patient, and you've got to be persistent. You can't stop asking the questions. You can't stop demanding the right answers. You can't stop working on your own behalf and with all of us to make sure that you get all of the opportunities for recovery that you need. And then there are times when you've got to be patient and allow those programs to work. We wish they were faster. We wish that we could just serve everybody at the same time, but that's not always possible. Let me just give you a quick overview of some of those programs. First is, you should register with FEMA for individual assistance. Raise your hand if you've registered with FEMA. All right, very good. So register with FEMA. They will come out and inspect. They will go through some documentation pieces with you, and they will send you a letter acknowledging what they can do or what questions that they have. There'll be some opportunity to talk specifically about that. You should consider applying for shelter at home. Shelter at home is not the be-all, end-all. It is not going to make you whole. It is not going to put back what you've had, but it can provide an opportunity for someone who is not able to be at home to have a safe sanitary space in their own home so that they can move back home, move back to their own community, let their kids be back in the same school as they figure out what the next step is. It's limited. We need to acknowledge that. We need to have realistic expectations, but it's an option that we should consider, and we have some people here today that can help you with some of those questions as they come up. You should, if you have flood insurance, you should file a claim with your flood insurance company, and they should send an adjuster out to your property to walk through what that looks like. Some of you may have only had flood insurance on the structure and not on the contents. Some of you may have had both. Obviously, a good many people in this event, not just in this area, but everywhere, didn't have flood insurance. And so that's one of those things that makes this different for each of us. And then the last thing is that you should talk to SBA. There is nothing in that conversation with SBA about what they can do for you to help fill in the gaps that's going to require you to do anything. But having the conversation with them may open up additional doors and additional opportunities that you need to be aware of. And even if you apply for the loan, and even if they approve you for a loan, you're still in control of how much and when and how that works for you. But it's a conversation that you should have, and you shouldn't just say, well, that's a loan, I don't want a loan. At this point, let's put the options on the table and figure out what works. And then the last thing that I would say is that one of the things that's important at this stage in the process is for you to get your property cleaned out, gutted out, and let it dry out while you figure out what the next stages are. Our governor has made some requests to the president, and the president has forwarded on those requests to Congress. Our congressional delegation is working on our behalf to bring some additional options to the table that are not presently things that we can utilize today. We need to know more about what that looks like. We need to know more about what those options are going to do and what that funding can do for us before we rush into something and figure out, a month from now, well, if I would have known that was coming, I would have waited. I'm not telling you that we're going to be waiting forever, but I am saying that the first goal is to get the house gutted out and let it dry out, and then we figure out what comes next after that. So I'm happy to be here today, happy to help you in any way that I can, and look forward to some dialogue as we go through some questions. Thank you. Can you hear me with this? My name's Sonny Mockley. I'm part of the individual housing program. You all, the folks that registered, may I see a hand that, show of hands of folks that have registered again, please? See, we're going to make you do something here today. All right, now, those who have not registered, if there is, nothing will happen. This is a process that will allow you to get into the system for additional FEMA assistance. So if you've not registered, we don't know that you're out there. So we want to make it easy for you to register. You can go to any one of our disaster recovery centers. We have a list of those, and it's a very easy process. You can do it by calling the 1-800-621-3362 number, easy as well. And as this gentleman said, once you are into the system, you will receive an inspection. Those of you who are already registered, you can explain that as well. FEMA contract inspector will come out, take a look at your damages, and you'll be receiving documentation to know the next step. Now, one of the things I want to caution you on, and I bet some of you had this happen, is you may receive a letter that says you're not eligible. That happen to anybody? Okay. Lots of times it's a little thing. By law, FEMA can't pay you for something someone else is going to pay you for. So if we came to inspect your property and we saw a certain amount of damage and we see that you do have insurance, then we need to know what your insurance company paid for. That's the first line of defense is your insurance. That's why you and I pay these higher insurance premiums, is to help us during times like this. So you want to get them involved in that as well. But what would happen, the next logical step, would you would visit a disaster recovery center along with that supplement, the answer that the insurance company gives you. We're going to cover this, and this. It's called a settlement letter. You bring that to the disaster recovery center, and we would then send that off for you right there. We can fax that off for you right there. And if there are any other items FEMA would consider that we may be able to help you with, you can always appeal. Any decision that FEMA has, you can appeal. To appeal, you have to do that within 60 days of a letter that you receive that tells you why you're not eligible for a certain thing. So if you appeal, and we encourage that, you need to provide us documentation that shows why you are appealing. It's your government. We don't want to say, well, I just disagree and that's that. You've got to give us documentation, and we can up to include send another inspector out to look. Maybe we missed something. And that does happen from time to time. So that I would recommend, if you haven't registered, please do. I would echo the shelter in place. We can provide documentation, and I know it's up to $15,000. The inspector would come out and make the basic repairs to your home so you can actually live in the house and while you're continuing on with your further repairs. Now, that program helps you in addition to anything that FEMA helps you with. You do not have to register with FEMA to receive that program, to be entered in that program. We would highly recommend that you do register with FEMA. This gentleman is going to talk about the SBA portion, and FEMA, again, is a process. If you have damage to your personal property, and I've ridden these streets, and anybody that lives around here, I can vouch where you got damage to your personal property. FEMA needs you to go through the SBA process first,
And then if you are turned down for the loan or decide not to take the loan, then it will be sent back to FEMA for us to consider the personal property damages that we saw whenever we inspected your property. That makes sense? Okay. There are are anybody receiving rental assistance now to find another place to live? I know they're hard to find a place. And that's why we have the other programs such as the shelter in place. We have the transitional housing. We have mobile homes. Have anybody requested a mobile home for your property? Okay. Does anybody have a mobile home on their property yet? Okay. That process it has a lot of arms to it. There's permitting, there's licensing, there's electrical changes and things like that, and we're working on that, and it's really starting to roll now. This disaster is the largest disaster we've seen since, I think, Sandy. We have had over close to 150,000 registrants. They're still coming in at about 250 a day or better, registering for FEMA assistance. So some folks just said, well, I think I can handle it, and they didn't register. They get into it, and they know that it's just this big thing. Are we going to stay a little bit afterwards to answer specific questions? We can do that for a little bit, but hold your questions, and I think we'll do a Q&A at the end of this, and I'll be happy to field any questions that you might have. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Garth now from SBA and let him kind of pick up where I left off.
Thank you, Sonny, and thanks for having us here today. Appreciate your time. So Sonny and Casey have both sort of described how the federal disaster assistance and the state working with our federal agencies are trying to find all the solutions to try to get people as close to pre-disaster recovery as possible. So SBA, maybe most of you have heard of the Small Business Administration, but most people, until they're hit by a disaster, don't realize that the organization I work for within the SBA is called the Office of Disaster Assistance. And the Office of Disaster Assistance has been helping homeowners, renters, of course businesses, private nonprofit organizations recover from disasters since the 1950s, actually. And we do that in the form of low interest, long-term recovery loans for both homes, the primary residence of the homeowner, for personal property, for homeowners and renters, and for business assets, furniture, fixtures, equipment. We also offer small business owners what's called economic injury funding. Some funds, because you're hit by a disaster, you might have lost your biggest customer, you haven't been able to do regular business, and your working capital funds are impacted. So we help the whole spectrum. But it is a process, and the way this works is, the number one step, as Sonny mentioned, is register with FEMA. And people can do that. I see this number in my sleep. It's 800-621-3362 or 800-621-FEMA. Anybody can do that easily on a phone. It's about a 15-minute phone call, maybe a little longer depending on the questions, the details of your family. But you can also do that online at disasterassistance.gov. That's the main portal to start the process. When homeowners and renters register with FEMA and all businesses, private nonprofits, then that information that's taken by FEMA is automatically referred to SBA. Electronically, we work hand in hand. We get the basic contact information. Not all homeowners and renters are referred because some folks are unemployed. And how can they take on a loan? They've been unemployed before the disaster, or they're on a very limited fixed income and they have family to take care of. So there's certain criteria that FEMA looks at, and if people are below a certain level of income or have no income whatsoever, we're not going to make those individuals go through the loan process because there's no way they can qualify. So some individuals are not referred to SBA, they're automatically referred to other grants, which are called other needs assistance grants that FEMA offers in conjunction with the state. But the vast majority of people, homeowners and renters and all businesses, are referred to SBA. And so we reach out to you individuals that are referred either by a phone call, by email, and say, we are trying to help you fill out an application that's the best way possible. And we'll walk you through that process. So at all the recovery centers throughout Louisiana and East Baton Rouge Parish here, there's a number of them. We have our staff there ready to walk you through the application, help you fill it out online right there on the spot, take documents, answer your questions. So we work side by side with FEMA at all the recovery centers. We also have some recovery centers that are called business recovery centers. There may be a few business owners here, sole proprietors or running a company, and we have some business recovery centers that specialize in helping a business owner apply because there's a little more paperwork involved. So the one thing that Casey mentioned and also mentioned by Sonny was, okay, insurance is the main protector against the disaster. But a lot of people had no expectation to be flooded here, and there was very little flood insurance comparatively in the communities that were hit. There was homeowners insurance, and this disaster was severe storms and flooding. So there could have been some trees that came down, wind-driven rain that came into your house, and that would be a homeowner policy claim. So you should talk to your homeowner's fire policy and make sure that there's not insurance coverage, even if it's a small amount. But one thing that we can do at SBA is we can get you some funds, low-interest loan funds for homeowners and renters. The interest rate is as low as 1.563%, and the vast majority of people fall into that below market rate. Only individuals that have substantial assets or real high income may get a higher rate, which is 3.125. It's one of those two, and the vast majority get a rate of 1.563%. With a payment that can fit within your budget. It can be up to 30 years. And you control, as Casey mentioned, how much money you accept from us, if any. You apply, there's no cost to apply, there's no obligation to take any funds. It keeps an option open for you. So individuals register with FEMA, they may get some housing rental assistance, they may get some medical equipment funds, or they may have had some emergency needs that FEMA will give some grant money to, like instant repairs to just make something safe for people to deal with in their home. But then you're asked to apply with the SBA, and we'll look at your losses. We send out loss verifiers with our federal badges as well, and they'll try to determine what it will take to get you back to pre-disaster condition. So you filed a claim with your insurance, you've registered with FEMA, maybe got some grant money, you've applied with Shelter at Home program so you can get a safe area in your home, some temporary repairs, so you can be at your home to protect it, to walk through the recovery process. And then you're applying with SBA, and you can take some funds as you want it, as you're ready to start rebuilding. You talk to your local officials, make sure you get the permits that are needed. You're finding out about, whether your home has to meet some special requirements due to the flood insurance program, or, depending on how much damage you had. That's a process through your local officials. So it's a step-by-step process, but keep your options open, because even if nobody wants, a lot of people I've been talking to, it feels like you're being forced to borrow money because you were hit by a disaster. I've gotten that, that concern. It just feels like the government is forcing me to take on a loan because I was hit by a disaster. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody expected this, but it is one of the best options that are available to get as close to pre-disaster condition. Under certain circumstances, if you had substantial damage and you have a note on your home, there's provisions within our program that we would look at for those individuals to see if you can put your regular mortgage together with your SBA loan. It's called refinancing. So If you go through the process, if you meet certain criteria, substantial damage, you should talk to your loan officer, which are direct federal employees that work for us. They're not through banks or anything like that. Some individuals use the money from us to relocate out of a flood zone as well, into their community maybe, hopefully somewhere in their same community, but out of a special flood hazard area. Under certain criteria, you can do that as well. So what I really want you to do is keep this option open. There's a deadline approaching of October 13th to register with FEMA, apply with SBA. You might just want money only for your personal property. You think you could get your home repaired, you had a little insurance. You might need a car that was flooded. You might only need $1,000 to repair your car. You control what you take from SBA, and it can be a payment that you can afford, because some people don't have a lot of room in their budget to take on a loan. So you're in control of the process, but keep the option open. Utilize, ultimately, many people are going to get grants from FEMA, might utilize the shelter-at-home program for temporary repairs, may get some insurance money or may not, and they're going to get a loan from us. And then those individuals that can't afford a loan, we're not going to offer a loan to people that are going to be underwater. They're not going to be able to pay the loan, because that's just creating more problems. Those individuals are referred back. If we can't offer a loan for lack of repayment or some issue on your credit and things like that for previous debts, we then refer those individuals back to FEMA, and they may get more grants. So by following our process, those individuals that know they can't accept any loans, they just can't afford it, those individuals are going to be referred back to FEMA and looked at for other grants. So it's all just one step after another to get through this process, and you can do it simultaneously while you're working with your insurance company. It doesn't have to be settled. We can get you some funds to start moving forward. If insurance pays you money for all the things we loaned you for, that money from the insurance can go to pay off your loan with us. And with our loans, there's typically a 5-month deferral period before you have to make payments. So we want you to get moving forward, obviously, and not lose the opportunity. So the only other thing I'll mention is these disaster recovery centers throughout the community are open. There's one down at the end of Airline Boulevard at the big Celtic Media Studio. It's a big, huge, air-conditioned building they've offered up, and it's FEMA and a bunch of our people. We're closing loans there. We're helping people ongoingly fill out the application. It's great to have other people from the state. The DMV is there. When I was there the other day, there's people from lots of organizations trying to give people help and solutions. And so utilize those while they're open, because you can get that face-to-face help, and you just don't feel like you're in it alone. I have some documents here that give you the details of our program and how to apply. It can be done at home on your own computer, but the face-to-face help I highly recommend. And last thing I'll just say is this is, as Sonny said, this is a big disaster. Our loan program, as of this morning, has approved over $580 million of low-interest loans to homeowners and businesses. So we're talking well over $500 million already in a month and a half. And, FEMA has helped. There's been a lot of money that's being dispersed on the street to get people moving forward. But, it is big, but that doesn't mean the key thing that I want to convey to you, even if your needs are you feel are smallest, you're not taking money away from anybody else that was hit harder than you by using our program, by taking FEMA money. The money is allocated for these disasters. This is a big disaster, so don't not register because you're afraid you're going to take money from somebody that needs it more than you. A lot of people, I've heard that comment, so do not worry about that. Whether you borrow $1,000 or get a small grant, it's still going to be money there to help other people that were hit harder. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. Ezra McDaniels with the Shelter at Home program. I think Casey mentioned earlier the specifics of the Shelter at Home program. I know you're going to have a lot of questions about it, but the basis of the Shelter at Home program is to get you back in a decent, safe, and sanitary condition. Now, are you going to have your granite tops and your nice hardwood floors? Those are more long-term recovery strategies. What we're about, we want to make sure that you're able to get back home, okay, so that you can get back in your communities, so your children can go back to school, and we wanted to provide you with the basic that you need in order to sustain yourself until your more long-term recovery strategies become available. So that's all I'll say about that right now, Senator, and if they have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Bartley. I'm with the National Flood Insurance Program, which is a program that's administered by FEMA. The National Flood Insurance Program is a little bit unique from some of the other programs in that it's always there. It's there when there's a disaster. It's there when there is not a presidentially declared disaster. And the other thing about it is it's based on a agreement between the local community that participates in the program and the National Flood Insurance Program. So each community that participates in the program agrees that there's a need for it, and they agree to adopt a set of rules which apply to new development and redevelopment of structures within the community. Now, these rules apply within specific areas throughout the community we refer to as special flood hazard areas. Now, what the community gets in return for that agreement is the ability to have access to the flood insurance program. And what the program provides is for contents coverage on residential, which would include rental units up to $100,000 of coverage for contents. For structural coverage on residential, it provides up to $250,000 per structure. Now, then there's the commercial part of the program, or non-residential part, which would provide up to $500,000 of coverage for contents and up to $500,000 of coverage for the structure. Now, when there is a disaster, a flood, then there's some things that need to be done as part of the operation of the program. And so you may have heard from your local officials, each community has one, we call them a floodplain administrator, that there are permitting requirements. If you happen to be in the special flood hazard area, your community will likely require that you get a permit in order to repair your structure. And they may tell you that your damage hits a certain threshold, which is set by the community, and as such, there's going to be some other requirements. They refer to that as substantial damage. Our gentleman from SBA also referred to that a minute ago. So when that requirement is imposed by the local official, there is an additional benefit on the flood insurance policy as long as you have not exceeded the statutory limit of $250,000 of $30,000 per structure. This $30,000 can be combined with the SBA program. It's not subject to the receipt or lack of receipt of some other benefit. And if there are mitigation programs that the community embarks upon, in many cases they will ask that that $30,000 be included with funds for mitigation. But the mitigation programs are something that will be worked out between the community and the state. The National Flood Insurance Program does not necessarily direct that mitigation. Now, the other thing is if you are told that you have substantial damage, the local official may tell you that before you can recover the structure, you have to meet the current regulations. However, there is a special provision for the shelter-in-place program, which allows for temporary occupation of a structure that has been determined to be substantially damaged, and it won't affect the compliant nature with regard to the permitting process or the National Flood Insurance Program's cooperative agreement between the program and the community. So I've also brought some literature on our program, the coverages available, and some other information about mold and things like that, and help with your claim process and so forth. And I'll be here after for a few minutes to answer any questions you might have. And one final thing, we are in receipt of notice that there will be an extension of time to file your flood insurance claim. Normally, your flood insurance policy requires that you provide a statement of loss within 60 days from the time of the loss. And there has been an extension granted of 60 days. Now, I would like to encourage you not to use that extension unnecessarily. If you have the ability to go ahead and do your statement of loss, go ahead and do that. Get the funds going so that you can begin your recovery. That does not prevent you from claiming additional damages which may be discovered in the process of recovering your structure. You can go ahead and file for those additional damages against your flood insurance policy if they were not foreseen at the time the initial statement of loss was made.
Okay, great. Awesome. So we appreciate that, and now we will take questions and answers. So this is what I'm going to do. We'll see if I can take one more mic and see if I can get someone to help me to do the Q&A. Okay, this is Julie Harris from AECOM, and her friend, her colleague here, Ms. Ezra, is from Shelter at Home program. So we have one question right here. And before we take that question, I do want to say that if you still need to have your home gutted, please let us know at the end of the meeting. I have two young ladies that are in the back and we can take your information. But we do have AmeriCorps here, and they are actually helping to help individuals to still gut their homes. And if you have, or you need to file an appeal, or if the paperwork just seems to be really just oversome or cumbersome to you, we do have the VRC centers, but we also have Southern University who can assist individuals with that. Okay, so yes, ma'am.
How y'all doing? Thank y'all for coming. My name is Helen Christopher, my husband also, Derek Christopher. I live on 3565 Braintree Drive. This was my whole subdivision. I was on a cruise. I left on the 7th, came back on the 14th. He was like, "What you gonna do?" I said, "I'm going to see the house." He said, "You're gonna drown." I had no idea. They wouldn't let me through. I got a boat and I went through it. This is pictures I received. I took. He could tell you I didn't have any clothes, anything, because we wasn't at home. We couldn't save anything. Insurance, we have that. $132,000. I have my statement of loss. I have my thing that says I have $175,000 damage. After the $5,000 deductible, personal property of $40,000. We have $70,000 personal property. After the $5,000 deductible, have my substantial letter. Apply for SBA. Apply for FEMA. There's no one to tell us what to do with our house. I have a flood certificate saying the base flood was 49. My house sit on the slab. They said go 1 foot above base flood, and that's all they told us at the permit office. They're not telling us when we can start or what we would have to do. I also contacted an elevation company that lift the homes. A 2-year process, possibly, to lift the home on the slab. Could cost up to $200,000. Our house is 2790 square feet. Could cost up. What are we supposed to do? Where do we go from here? The size is neat, and we did every process. What are we supposed to do next? Can anybody help me?
So, thank you for giving us the recap of your situation. I'm glad to hear that you had insurance. Have you gotten any advance payment or payment from the insurance company yet?
$15,000, $10,000 for first surprise. But like I said, we only got 132 coverage. We had 175 to rebuild because we just bought a house a year ago. We did $67,000 of renovation. We just dedicated the house out last year and redid it. And then we had to put this water and see it, the ceiling stayed down, the walls came down. We have nothing but brick and a roof, and it needs to come off. The water is over the roof.
Wow. Okay. So, I think there are some specifics to your situation that we may need to talk offline about how to navigate some of those specific situations. I would say generally, in your situation, we need to make sure that you have some interim housing so that you've got some time to figure out, because what they told you, and I don't want to get into whether it's going to be 2 years or not, but the reality is it's going to take some time to figure this out. That much we know. And some of the things that the governor and the president and the congressional delegation are working on may come in to benefit and either speed up or give additional options on how that's going to work. Unfortunately, we can't say today exactly what that's going to look like and when that's going to happen and how much. So we can talk offline about some of the specifics, but I would say generally we need to find out a good, stable, interim housing solution while you figure out, okay, this is how much flood insurance is going to contribute, this is what, if anything, FEMA can do, what your SBA options are, and then you've got that information in front of you to figure out, okay, these are the resources that I have to take the next step. As it relates to rebuilding and potentially having to elevate, and what the city parish is going to, assuming that that subdivision is within the city parish, what they're going to require you to do or not require you to do. Again, we want to make sure that you've got something stable to live in for now while we figure out what those options are. We all wish that we could say this is exactly what needs to happen and when and how much money is available to do it. But again, individual situations may vary, and I want to talk to you offline about making sure that we've got that you've got the right information to be able to understand what your options are as we move forward. And certainly all of us, I know that I speak for everybody, is certainly sad to hear the specifics of your situation, as we know that probably is a story that's to some extent shared by most everybody here.
I would just like to add a couple things based on what you described. It sounds like your home is in a special flood hazard area. Okay, so this is a kind of a prime example. Their home was determined to be significantly damaged. Therefore, to meet the NFIP flood insurance requirements, it may be required to be elevated. So, as was mentioned, your policy, since you didn't hit that back, you didn't have 250 coverage, you may be eligible, if you decide to rebuild, if you can go forward with that, you may be eligible for the NFIP increased cost of compliance, ICC money, which is part of the policy, and it could be up to $30,000 if you did decide to elevate. But your example is what I talked about a little bit ago. Somebody that might decide to relocate out of a special flood hazard area, therefore potentially eliminating the requirement for flood insurance. You can potentially use the funds that we're providing to relocate to a different location. And then you would have time to deal with your property, and you might sell it off. You would ultimately sell that property off at some point, and that money could help pay down the loan with us. But you have a period of time, a matter of years to do that, and it's part of what we would look at for potential relocation. You're basically, involuntarily relocating because you're having to raise your house. These requirements are being put on you. So just as you go forward, okay, look.
I'm I'm disabled because I have lupus and degenerative joint disease. I was struck out for 22 years. I can no longer work.
Okay, so every letter from SBA, one thing I will mention to the group is that if you do get initially denied and things like that, there is a period of time, you have 6 months for reconsideration, but like Casey mentioned, your individual case has a lot of moving parts, and I'll talk to you a little bit afterwards too. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Poe. I'm with FEMA in individual assistance, and I just wanted to add, as you have already applied, you are in the process, or can be in the process of individual assistance that can provide you funds to move someplace else, whether you want to rent an apartment, whether you want to rent another home, however you want to address your living situation. And then there's the mobile home program that might be the mobile home program that might be helpful to you. But have you received a phone call yet from anyone to find out what your interest might be? Okay. And then just recently, I think it was this morning, I saw some information, because there could be others of you who have received a phone call and expressed an interest in either talking with someone about a mobile home, or seeing if you have enough property, enough at your current home site or at a commercial property. And there may have been a significant, not really significant, but more time than you were expecting to hear a response back from us. And they are planning to start making telephone calls to you. So if you've expressed an interest in a mobile home, then we will be calling back to give you a better time frame, or to let you know that you haven't been forgotten. It's really frustrating, I'm sure, to be there wanting to move forward with your recovery and not being able to know where you are in the process. So I wanted to be sure that you do that. And if you have specific questions about your rental assistance, found a place that you want to rent, and you want to know how to get additional rental assistance, you can go to the Disaster Recovery Center, and they can explain that to you and make certain that you get the letter to request continued rental assistance for up to 18 months from the time of the declaration. So it's 18 months of assistance. And that's what normally the assistance is provided for. So that would give you some time to be able to figure out what you want to do with your home, and to be able to move forward with that and feel comfortable that you're going to have a place to stay.
Before we take the next question, I just want to say, I noticed the team will say this earlier, because we are pushing and really looking for additional funding to come down for different programs that we don't even know yet what they may be considered a call to assist individuals that have unique cases and unique situations. And I know that I've spoken with the governor specifically about seniors having to rebuild and restart all over, and really trying to create something for them. So 3 P's that I heard earlier was persistent, process, and perseverance. And so I just would like to say that and encourage you with that. But know, and please get the numbers of everyone up here, get their contact information, including mine, so that you guys can find me. But we are here for the long haul to help you through the entire process. So, next question, right here.
We're also having a program called the Multifamily Lease and Repair Program. And what that does is that makes a connection between FEMA and landowners who may have apartment complexes, multifamily locations, and as you know, we call it resources, housing, places to live. There are very, very few. So FEMA's looking to assist the landowners to repair those properties so that we can then get folks that require housing while they repair their original home. And I have the phone number, I'll give it to you if you'd like. You know, anybody that has property that FEMA may want to call, it is 225-382-1464. 225-382-1464. And it's called a multi-family lease and repair program. And they can give you the details on that.
My question is directed to the shelter at home. I received a phone call on Thursday night, and he said he'd be at my house on Friday, and I explained to the guy, I said, we're not going to be there on Friday because the notice is short and we already had other plans. And on top of that, I told him, I said, we just finished getting the house. They still have mold and everything in the house. And so on Saturday, me and my wife, we left. I got a phone call about 9 o'clock on my phone. When I looked at my phone, it was a guy, so I called the phone back, and the guy told me, he said, yeah, I'm with All-Star Electric out of Metairie. I just left your house. I said, well, sir, how did you get in my house? I said, the front door locked, the back door locked. He said, well, I went through the back door. I went through your gate, and I opened one of the doors in the back. I said, well, I already called him and told him that I wasn't going to be there. And I said, well, why would you go in my home if you know I'm not there? Well, you signed a release for me to come in. I said, I signed a release saying that someone had to be there when you get there. And so he said, I just left your house. It was 10 o'clock at night. So me and my wife, we stopped what we doing. We rushed back to the house. He pried the back door open, went through my back gate, and he put some electrical boxes in there. Then when I called to try to talk to them to get some sense of this here, you know, I was treated like, you know, hey, you nothing. I came and did a job. You get with the people with the construction company. I said, well, okay. Just so happens Elder came by and I explained that situation to her. Not only did I feel violent because I have a wife and we still haven't gotten everything out of the house. And I'm very disgusted because he did that to me and he didn't give me any respect as a homeowner. And he just barged in my house like that, you know. And so now he's calling me every day talking about, do you want me to bring a dope? No, I don't want you to bring a dope. Actually, I don't want you nowhere around my house because you open my house for burglars to come in and Park Forest. We have people that's preying on people that's been through this disaster. And I go home, find my back gate open, my house is wide open. So I might sound a little frustrated right now because I am. And it's my job to protect not only my home, but to protect my wife. She don't even want to go in the house because she's thinking somebody in the house, you know. And so now he called me, telling me he's going to come back out tomorrow. I said, well, we need to talk to somebody because I don't want you at my house at all because you broke in my house. And that's my concern.
Thank you so much. We certainly apologize for this issue. I believe I actually spoke to you myself, Ezra, working through Senator Barrow's office as well. And I will let you know that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable under the program. As you can imagine, we're dealing with a little over 115 contractors. So we have 9 general contractors, and of course, there are many, many subcontractors under those general contractors doing work. I believe this particular issue was the way that it came back to me was that there was a miscommunication on the team. It should have stopped when you informed the original group that you were not going to be there. They're not to go into the property unless there's express consent. So I don't want to give the impression that we are to enter your homes without you being there or without your consent. That's what the legal right of entry form is for, but it does not give it does not give us the legal process to go in your home when you're not available. So, particular to that, I apologize for that, and that will not. We are putting precautions in place to make sure that that does not happen to anyone that signs up under the Shelter at Home program. This program is designed to give you immediate assistance so that you can get back into your properties. We want to do it right. We are there for the communities. We're going to make sure that those precautions are in place to do so, to protect you and your families.
And along those lines, Mr. McDaniels, if that does happen to someone, I know you're taking every precaution, and I know the governor has been very clear that he wants this program to be successful, and they'll evaluate it daily. But if it does happen, what should be the next steps? Because just so happened, I just happened to come here, and he shared it with me, I was able to give you guys a call, but what number do they call, or who do they contact?
Absolutely. You can call the regular number. Let me give it to you here, 1-800-927-0216, and there's an option 3 there. To respond with any complaints that you may have. And I guarantee you, we will get back with you. We want this process to be as fluid as possible. Again, that number is 1-800-927-0216. Press option 3, and we will make sure that we address your concerns to the extent that we can.
Thank you. There's a question over here.
Good afternoon. I know everyone is very, very anxious to get back into their home, but I don't think a lot of people realize how contaminated Category 3 blood water is. I know someone who has a pig farm in their, not in their backyard, but a pig farm is close to their home. I know a lot of people who live in the same neighborhood with plants. We even saw on the news where they had caskets floating in the water. So this water is very, very, very contaminated. So let's say someone wanted to sell in the future, or they wanted to be assured that their home is contaminant free. Is there a certificate, or is there some type of documentation that homeowners need before they start rebuilding to make sure that their home is contaminant free? And when they do decide to sell, that they can provide those documents at the closing table when they get ready to sell? Because I know everybody is anxious, but this is a process. This is not a typical construction project. This is a disaster recovery project. So I know there's documents, maybe certificates or bill of health certificates that people need to get before they start back rebuilding, because there's other contaminants besides mold that you can't see with the human eye.
I'll be the go-to, we don't know the answer, so we'll take your information back, designate. I think that's a very good point. I know that there are disclosures related to flood. I'm not aware of specific disclosures related to things outside of that. So let us talk, and it may be jurisdiction specific as well. So it may not be the same answer in Zachary or Denham Springs as it is in East Baton Rouge Parish. And so let us take that information back. Make sure that we talk afterwards so that we know how to get in touch with you, and we'll route that answer back through the senator to make sure that information gets out, so that whether it's you interested in potentially buying a property, or whether it's you interested in potentially selling your property, you have some idea of what that will look like.
Okay, all right. I know they was talking about the thing with mobile homes, and I had a phone call, I did the interview, and someone was supposed to come out and survey to see where they were put it. And I waited, and there's no number to call to find out what's going on. But I heard on the news that the mayor of Baker hasn't approved the FEMA trailers for Baker, and I'm wondering why.
Good try.
There is a process, a time frame process, as I said a little bit ago. There's once you are determined eligible for a mobile home, and the criteria for the mobile home would be $17,000 damage as seen by the FEMA contract inspector for home repair when they came in. Now, we also have folks that are renting the property, also not owners, but people that live in apartments and things like that, and their criteria for those as well. A renter has no property to place a mobile home on, so they will be offered a commercial site to go to. I'm going to get to the question, but I've been wanting to say this as well. We have gone through and leased pads in mobile home parks and put our mobile homes in there. So usually a renter, someone who's renting, would be able to go there and go through the process of finding another place to live. Ma'am, there's a timing issue from the time that you or anyone is determined eligible And you're right, the first step after that is to come out and look and see if the unit will fit on your property, physically fit on your property. And they look at things like sewer and where electrical, water and setbacks and things like that. I'm not aware of the mayor not approving units on private side. I know that process is in here, it's running right now. As Cindy said just a moment ago, we have implemented a procedure where someone will be calling and saying, yes, you're in the system, we've not forgotten you, you're there, we're just so busy getting to you. They'll set up an appointment for you to be there. There is a right of entry. We need your permission to come on your property, so there's a right of entry form that we'll need to get you signed for us. So do that. How long has it been since someone said that you were eligible for a mobile home? Man, close to a month. Can you and I speak after this is over and let me get some information for you and I'll run that in the ground for you? That's too long. Okay.
And I would like to add that I know that each municipality has different ordinances, and so in our normal ordinance, even in the city of Baton Rouge, you cannot put a regular trailer on certain lots. And so what EBR did was immediately the council came in and they actually relaxed those rules so that people could do that. It's my understanding that I believe that in the city of Baker, that has not happened. That ordinance that they have in place that will allow you to place a trailer on the lot is still in place. So that means that if you live in a residential area that is not deemed like for manufactured housing, then you cannot put one there. And so the first step or the next step, one of the things that may need to be done is actually meeting with the council or talking with the council about perhaps actually relaxing those rules during this period of time that will allow people to do that. I do know that the mayor is looking at setting up a temporary commercial site where there would be manufactured housing there that's specifically pretty much for the people of Baker and people that live a little bit, I guess, a little bit more north of there. I did hear that. We can talk a little bit more about that too.
While we're talking about mobile homes, there's, if you receive a mobile home, if you're going to be offered a mobile home, you accept it. It's an up to 18-month program. You'll be licensed in to utilize that mobile home. We will send a group around to see you about every 30 to 45 days and make sure that if you are an owner, if you're moving forward with your repairs, if you happen to be someone who is renting, make sure that you're moving forward and trying to locate another place to live. I do want to reiterate this. For the FEMA rental assistance that you receive, you are able to rent a house, if you can find one. You can rent an RV and put it in your yard and utilize the rental assistance for that. There is what they call a recertification. If you utilize your rental assistance for housing, and you need more, I think Cindy touched on it a little bit, you need to provide us how you spend that money, and so that we can offer, ask you to give you some additional funds to continue your places to live, a safe place to live while you are repairing your home.
I would like to ask Mr. William Daniels from the City of Baton Rouge, and he's here as the Chief Administrator of the City of Baton Rouge. I know we have one question regarding permits and something regarding permits, but if you would just come join us, I really appreciate you coming at late minute notice to be here. If anybody have any questions regarding permitting, this would be our gentleman. I know somebody kind of asked something about that earlier, see if we can comment. Any more questions? I know I saw a hand. Okay, my question is, if you apply for the mobile home, can you as well apply for the shelter at home?
So let me answer that. Basically, when we talk about interim housing, which means the housing that's going to be for the next 3 months or 6 months or a year as we figure out where we go from where we are today to where we need to be, there are basically at this point, three main options. The first is the rental assistance that FEMA provides, and most of you that got it already received the initial 2 months, and then what we were just talking about was in order to receive another month's allocation of that, you would have to show the receipts or the documentation that support that you spent the first 2 months either on a deposit and a first month's rent or 2 months rent or something like that. In order to keep receiving that moving forward, you would have to be able to find a rental resource that works for you. We know just from attending these meetings and talking to people in the area that the flexibility on leasing terms and finding something that's month to month or something that works for you is very difficult. Most of the rental resources are not very in close proximity or near the impacted area. So a lot of those are on the other side of Baton Rouge or in another part of town. So that makes transportation and all of those things more difficult. So that's the first option, but as I just said, there's some limitations to that option, obviously. The second thing is shelter at home. And for those homes that shelter at home works for, and those families that shelter at home works for, to be able to create with a minimal amount of work, understanding that it's not going to fix and put things back the way that it was, allow somebody to move back into their own house and have a functioning kitchen, a functioning restroom and living space, or the manufactured housing unit. And so those last two, shelter home and manufactured housing unit, are really designed to be either or. Either we're going to be able to move back into our house with shelter at home and work out when we go from here, or we are able to put a manufactured housing unit on our own property, or we are able to be located in a commercial site that's not very far away that works for us. So those are intended to be a choice that you make. The way that I would propose that you do this, if it's me, is you talk to shelter at home. And you allow that inspector to come into your house and show you what it is that they can do and what it is that they can't do. And then you're able to make an informed choice at that point as that's something that works for me and my family, or no, it doesn't. That's not what I need, and that's not going to be something that works for me. Or it may be that shelter at home comes and looks at it and says, it would cost too much money to be able to do what we need to do and you're not eligible. But talk to them and figure that out. And then when FEMA calls and talks to you about, hey, here's some rental resources, and they make that call to you, and you would tell them, no, I'm not able to find rental resources that work for me because it's too far away or it's too expensive or the lease terms are terms that don't work for me. I'm interested in a manufactured housing unit. I would say leave both options open, and then as you get to that point, figure out which decision makes the most sense for me. If I can get the manufactured housing unit on my own property, that may be better than shelter at home. But not everybody's going to have that option. In some people's instance, shelter at home is going to be a great solution because there wasn't a great deal of damage, or it was a 2-story house and the second story was not impacted. And so just getting the kitchen back working really allows you to have some stability. That's part of what makes this difficult, is there are options to choose from. But what we want to do is make sure that you get the right information so that you're able to make the informed decisions that work best for you and your family. Does that help? Okay.
Hi, thank you.